We all know that learning a language is a very long and time-consuming process, and time is not something that we all have. Most English learners are only able to dedicate a little bit of time each day, each week to studying, practicing, learning English. So in order to become fluent, we need to be doing the right things when we study. We need to study in the most efficient way possible. We all know that we should be working smarter and not harder, but how do you actually do that? It's a lot easier said than done. I'm Finn and I'm an English teacher, and in this video I'm going to explain to you exactly how you do it. I studied modern languages and translation at university, so I studied Spanish and Portuguese. So trust me, I've spent a lot of time studying languages and I know just how boring it can be, especially when you have endless lists of vocabulary and you're doing random grammar activities that are so demotivating. Grammar is tough, grammar is difficult, and it's so boring as well. So don't worry, I'm not going to make you write a study plan and study lots of grammar and learn lots of pointless vocabulary. But what I am going to do is make you look at the definition of the word fluent. So according to the Cambridge Dictionary, when a person is fluent, they can speak a language easily, well, and quickly. Now this is a very important thing to remember, so let me explain why. The first thing to mention here is that it says speak. When a person is fluent, they can speak a language. So that is the end goal, right? We want to be able to speak to other people in English. So there are two things that we can do with a language: create and consume. So create is basically just speaking and writing or thinking. And then consuming is referring to your other skills. Think about reading and listening, taking the language in and understanding it. Consuming English is a lot easier and a lot more comfortable than creating English. And when people study, they tend to consume a lot more than they create. And that is why so many learners with an intermediate level in English are very good at understanding everything they see and hear, but when it comes to a real conversation, they feel like they freeze and they feel like they don't know what to say. So think of creating and consuming as two different muscles in your brain. And the muscle that we want to build, the muscle that we want to grow and get stronger, is the muscle that creates English. And I'm going to talk about the fastest ways to build and grow that muscle. But first, let's look at the rest of the definition. So someone that can speak a language easily. What does easily actually mean? Easy is the opposite of difficult, so not difficult. And it is talking about effort as well. So effortless, without effort. Again, think of the idea of the muscles. Somebody with big muscles is going to be able to lift weights a lot easier than somebody with small muscles. So easily, well, and quickly. So well, what does well mean? Well, it means good quality or good standard. It does not mean perfect. So in order to be fluent, we do not have to become perfect English speakers. Native speakers, even me as an English teacher, we make mistakes all of the time. Just because you are fluent doesn't mean you are perfect. It doesn't mean that you never make mistakes. And then quickly, again, the idea of big muscles. The person with big muscles is going to lift weights a lot more quickly than someone with small muscles. Right, so we get it. We need to grow the muscle in our brains that creates English. But what is the best and fastest way to do that? So there are three different things that we need to do, and we need to do them in a cycle. So we need to do one, then the other, and then back to the first thing, and we're going to repeat this over and over again. The first thing is practice. So we need to be creating English as much as possible. Ideally, we want to be speaking having real conversations with real people to practice the speaking muscle. But writing is also a form of creating, and it's going to help. Not as much, but still a little bit. And that might be writing on a piece of paper, that might be writing in group chats. Ideally, again, we want to be writing, communicating with real people. So if you can, you want to find people to communicate with, and that is for both speaking and writing. But how do you find people to speak with? Now, this is by far the most difficult part, but luckily for you, speaking, having a real conversation is the most efficient thing you can do. It's the hardest, it's going to make your brain work the most, so you only really need a short amount of time to be able to improve. It's like a short, intense workout in the gym that gets your muscles aching and it gets your heart beating. Another piece of good news is that we don't need a native speaker. The priority here is to use that muscle, to get the muscle thinking and creating English. So who do you speak with? Well, anyone. It can be your friend that's also learning English. But it's 2026. There are so many different ways that we can speak with other people. There are so many different platforms online that allow us to speak with other English learners from different countries. This is good. This also forces you to speak in English with your friend that speaks the same language. It's very tempting to speak in your native language. So speaking to people from other countries forces you to only use English, which is good. Now, don't get me wrong, native speakers are useful. If you have a one-to-one conversation with a native speaker, it is the most intense workout that you can do for your brain, for that creating muscle. Because it's a native speaker, you'll probably be speaking a little bit quicker, the conversation is going to flow a little bit more, so your brain is working super hard to create really quickly, but also to understand what they are saying. But of course, finding a native speaker to have a one-to-one conversation with is very difficult. And when you start looking for classes, they can be quite expensive. There are lots of different communities online as well. So if you find something that you're interested in, whether it's archery, whether it's running, whether it's chess, I don't know, whatever you are interested in, you can find these communities online and join different groups, join different platforms and communities. This is a great way to practice, but usually this only comes with being able to write. So usually typing messages in different group chats and servers and communities and things like that, which is great, but it's not quite the best. And I know it's really, really hard to find a community, a place, a group to be able to speak with on a regular basis. So that's exactly why I created the English Confidence Club. We have 5 speaking sessions every single week, and there are members from all over the world, from Mexico to Indonesia to Ukraine, all over the place. We have normal conversations, we talk about normal things. I think we've spoken about every topic that exists. And it's just a great way to regularly spend time speaking with real people, building that muscle that creates English in your head without having to spend £1 million on private classes. There's a link in the description of this video with loads more information for you to go and explore. But for now, I want to move on to step 2 of the cycle. Step 2 is feedback. How are you going to improve if you don't know what you're doing wrong? Think about Olympic swimmers. They still spend most of their time practicing, just swimming up and down, but still some of their sessions are about technique. So they are improving their technique. They're not just practicing, but they're improving. So that's exactly what you need to do with your English. And again, the best, most efficient way of doing that is with a native teacher. But again, that can cost quite a lot of money. You also have things like group classes and my speaking sessions. I don't want to promote my English club for the whole video, but I provide some feedback. There are smaller group classes you can find that are more focused on feedback. So there are lots of different ways you can get somebody to tell you what you're doing wrong and correct your mistakes. But remember, it is 2026, so you don't need a teacher for feedback. So for this, something like ChatGPT really is your friend. There are loads of different ways you could do this. You could get ChatGPT to ask you some questions and you write your answers and ask it to give you feedback. You could even record yourself speaking using the dictation feature, again for a question that it gives you, or even for just when you're practicing with your friend or online in a speaking club or online with a speaking partner. So you give it the English that you have created and ask for feedback, and in particular, you want to ask for common mistakes. So then this leads me on to step number 3. Sorry for the sudden change in scene. My phone was about to die, so I had to run back to the house and charge my phone quickly. But anyway, step 3 is study. So you need to look at the feedback from step 2 and actually learn from it. So let's say, for example, that you were struggling with prepositions of time. So maybe you kept saying in night instead of in the night, or on night instead of at night. Then here there is clearly a gap in your knowledge. So there is something you need to work on. It could be anything. Maybe you're using the wrong tense in certain situations. Maybe your word order is incorrect. Maybe when talking about a specific topic, you are very limited in vocabulary. So now we have identified the problem. How do we work on it? For many things, there will be free resources and tests and lessons and guides that you can find on the internet, whether that's from a Google search, maybe on YouTube, there's a video explanation of something, but also ChatGPT, again, is great for this, whether you are getting it to explain something to you or you are getting it to test you. So for example, looking at the prepositions of time again, maybe you can get ChatGPT to give you a simple gap fill quiz on the prepositions of time. Or if you need to expand your vocabulary when it comes to a certain topic, then you can find a list of words and create English about the topic using those words. Maybe you're telling a story. Maybe you're writing some facts, maybe you're summarizing an article, but try and use those words naturally. Different study methods work for different people. You just need to find what works best for you. But at least now your studying is a little bit more targeted. You're not just doing random grammar quizzes, you're working on one of your weaknesses. So those are your 3 steps: practice, feedback, study. So next time you dedicate some time out of your day to improve your English, make sure you stop and think. Is this improving my muscle, my creative muscle in my brain? Because sitting around and watching Netflix is going to help you with consuming English and building that muscle that consumes English, but it's not going to make you a fluent English speaker. And remember, if you're looking for a nice, friendly, supportive place to practice your English speaking skills, to practice real conversations with real people, then check out the English Confidence Club. So there is a link in the description of this video where you'll find out loads more information, everything you need to know. So I hope to see you in one of our next speaking sessions. Thanks for watching the video. Make sure you subscribe if you are looking to improve your English, and I will see you next time.